Hello everyone and welcome back to Granted Gardens. My name is Melissa and this weekend is our weekend back. Last weekend we were out of town for Homesteaders of America conference, which was super fun. If you haven't seen that video, please go back and check it out. If you're big into following homesteaders in the YouTube community, there was a ton of people there, so it was really fun and really neat to kind of meet people that we watch a lot on YouTube. Plus it was just a great community and we learned so much and we had such an amazing experience. We got to stay in an Airbnb with fellow Roots and Refuge admin and moderator team, which was stellar to finally meet all of them people in person. So if you haven't seen that video, make sure you go back and check that out. Today we're just going through the garden because we haven't really had a chance to like pick from the garden in at least a week, maybe a little over a week because we've been busy. So there's a lot of stuff still going on. I've had quite a few people actually reach out to me over the last 2 weeks, especially over the last week after they saw our Homesteaders of America video, saying that they want to start growing their own food. I think that this journey is something that I applaud anyone that is willing to take it on. And I love the first timers. I had a friend from work that actually had reached out to me and she said that, she's been saying she wanted to start a garden for a while. And I think that, there's just a lot of information out there and it can get a little overwhelming when you're just starting out and you don't really know what to do first. But the biggest takeaway is to just start somewhere, and start small, and don't get too wrapped up in the details because gardening is 120% about making mistakes and growing from them. Tyler and I started small. Actually I started with a 4x4 raised bed that my dad had built me out of my old swing set. And we've progressed from there and it's been a lot of trial and error. And that's really what gardening is all about. It's about growing with your garden. So this video is going to give you guys a bit of an insight into what our garden looks like here in Zone 7A, Maryland, in the middle of October. I'm going to show you guys what I'm picking from that was from the summer garden that I'm still picking from, as well as some things that we have growing here that we started for the fall garden, and just kind of give you an overview of what food we are still producing here on the homestead that is literally going straight from the ground to the table. So right behind me here we have this puny looking eggplant. I like to do eggplants just because it's fairly versatile. There's a lot that you can do with the eggplants. But I'll be honest with you, it's probably not one of our favorites. I'm not sure that I'll be big on growing it again. But we do have a few eggplants here that I'm going to pick from, use these up. We might not do eggplants next year. We just don't eat them a lot. Alright, so we've got this guy here. To be honest, he might have been on here a little bit longer. I think that's one of the problems with my eggplants is that I tend to wait too long to pick them. I was always told that when the shine dulls, it's a good time to pick them. But these are a smaller variety, and I think that waiting for the shine to dull means that it's waiting too late. Like here you can see this one's starting to turn brown. The brown ones tend to be really bitter. They don't taste very good, so we'll pick these and see what we'll do with them. The brown ones, if they don't look too hot and they don't look like they'll taste good, we'll probably just put them in the compost. Now here we've got some of my bean plants. These we sowed directly into pots for our fall harvest. This one's actually still looking pretty healthy. I've got one over there that has completely pooped out on us, but the one over there actually produced the absolute most. It was a banger right from the start, so I can understand why it's dying off. But we're just going to go through here and see what beans we have available. Our frost date is coming up. It's in, I think, 2 weeks, but we have some plans next weekend, so I'm not sure that we will be able to really address anything next weekend. So we might be making some big moves this weekend as far as tearing stuff out and making sure that we're harvesting anything that is not going to make it through a frost. But these beans I'm going to take out today. What I like to do, because sometimes I don't get a really big harvest all at once, so what I like to do is I'll take my beans, I'll wash them, I'll break off the ends, and then I'll chop them into about inch and a half long pieces. I blanch them, and then I throw them in a freezer bag and keep them in the freezer. That way we've got an abundance of beans, so that if we actually want to make something, we have enough to actually make it with. Over here you can see the bean plant that I was telling you about. That is dying off rather quickly. So my game plan here was, because this was so prolific, I was really happy with the amount of beans that we got off of this. I'm going to pick a few of these, but I'm also going to leave some of the larger ones on. And the idea here is we'll leave them on the bush here and let them dry naturally. Then we can take the seeds out of these pods and then save them to plant next year. Alright, so here you can see I've left quite a few on here to let the beans dry out so that we can harvest the seeds for next year. And I got a decent handful of beans that we'll take in the kitchen and blanch. Alright, so I want to talk a little bit about herbs. A lot of my herbs that I have will die at the first frost. They will not make it through. So this is the proper time to start paying attention to your herbs. To be honest with you, a lot of them are going to start dying off now naturally anyways, just because the season's changing and it's getting shorter days, cooler at night. So you want to make sure you're harvesting your herbs before they get to not so healthy phase, whether like the brightness of the color starts to fade or if they start to turn brown. So this here is my eucalyptus. I was so excited to grow this year, but you can start to see that here at the base it's starting to die off, and our leaves are starting to turn brown. So today's the day to harvest this. I've got my eucalyptus here in a pot, so it's not going to overwinter. I did a couple years ago actually try to move in my eucalyptus into the house to see if I could keep it alive, and eventually it just started dying off. So I realized it's not worth moving it into the house and using up space, so I'm gonna just go ahead and clip this up. Now, as far as eucalyptus goes, it's really pretty once it dries to just use it in like a vase as like decoration. It also has a really pretty smell to it. So there's a lot of stuff I can do with this. For my herbs this year, I've decided I'm gonna just make sure I harvest all of them and get to them before they die off, and then dry them in the house. That way I have them available to use when I decide when or how I want to use them. Not a bad harvest at all. Had to run in and get another basket. Moving into the garden, we'll start with the peppers. So here's what the pepper bed looks like. Man, was this a solid decision this year. The peppers have done so amazingly well. Look at this, we got peppers everywhere. Alright, so these behind me here, these are our cucamelons. So if you follow the channel, you've seen me talk about these a lot. We had purchased, I think, seeds 2 or 3 years ago now, and planted a cucamelon plant. I might have bought a plant actually, I don't even remember. But we planted it, and every single year now, we get tons of cucamelon plants. So if you don't know what a cucamelon is, they're these little tiny melon-like fruits, and they're called a few different things. So mouse melons, cucamelons is what we call them, and they get about this big, and you can pick them, and they taste kind of like a lime and a cucumber mixed. They're really a different flavor, and they're fun to eat because they're just tiny little snacks. They're absolutely adorable. They look like little baby watermelons, and these plants just take over. Now, they don't overwinter, they don't come back essentially, the plant itself. However, it's nearly impossible for you to pick every single one of these. Like, we miss a couple every year, and every single time that you miss a couple, those couple tend to break down, and then the seeds germinate the next spring and come back. So we dig out cucamelon plants at the beginning of, well, probably like the beginning of summer, so not quite spring, because they usually take a little while to get going. And we end up digging up a bunch of plants and we sell them every year, so keep an eye out if you're local. This year we dug out all of them except for one. We kept one plant. This is one plant on our cattle panel arch, and it's all the way up and starting to creep over, and it's completely covered in these little cucamelons. They're really fun, like I said, as snacks. I've tried canning them. They're a little mushy and like not as much fun to eat when they're canned, but like I pickle them and can them. Another really good way to eat them is to pickle them and refrigerate them. So not canned pickles, but refrigerator pickles. And they're pretty good that way. But this time, I don't know, I'm trying to get creative with how I'm going to use these because we have a ton. I'm thinking about maybe making like a cucumber salad, but with cucamelons. Might try that. So we'll see. So I'm going to pick these. There's a boatload of them. As I mentioned, cucamelons start very, very slow. They start really, really late in the season. So it'll look like a little tiny plant for the longest time, and then it just absolutely takes off. Cucamelons are something that need space. They need a lot of space. As I mentioned, this is one plant, and I'll show you guys how it creeps up over the arch, but is also starting to wander into the peppers. Then over here, you can see how they're grabbing onto the poor pepper plants and taking them down. Not bad. Not bad at all. Wow. And actually, there's still plenty more on here. Here you can see my initial noodle beans that I planted on this arch the beginning of the spring. Never really took off. I don't know why. They just never did. But we've got one bean here that I'm leaving so that it'll dry on the vine so we can harvest the seeds. Try again next year. Here's my loofahs. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? So, situation with the loofahs. Last year we grew loofahs for the first time, and we didn't do too hot. We had, I think, 3 loofahs that we ended up picking and drying in the basement, 3 or 4, and out of those 4, only one of them made it. The rest of them like didn't dry out properly. So this year we are thinking about picking them early. I'm gonna phone some friends and get advice on when to pick them and how to store them, how to let them dry out. But I do know that we have quite a few here that are like ready to be picked. Like, they dried out on the vine, thankfully. So I know that I'm walking away with at least something, but we still have a lot of them on here that are really green. So here we have an example of a loofah, massive, like longer than my arm. So this is what a loofah will look like on the vine. I mean, this is obviously a very large one, but it's still very, very heavy and very green and not like hollow, like dry hollow yet. So this is not technically ready to be picked. Now, if you're not familiar with loofahs, what I do with them is I'll dry them out, and on the inside is something, it's like spongy, okay, like a hard sponge. And you can use them for many things. You can use them to clean your dishes. You can use them in the shower. You can use them, what my goal is I'm going to put them in my soaps. So you can do a lot of different stuff with it. But right here, like I said, is an example of one that is not ready quite yet to be picked, hypothetically. However, our frost date is coming up, and I don't want them to freeze because that's what happened to ours last year. And they don't dry properly. They end up like rotting and molding. So we might be picking these. I don't know. I need to consult with some friends in Tyler before I go making big decisions like that because I'm nervous. However, here is an example of a loofah that is 100% ready to be picked and harvested. It's very light, if you shake it, you can hear the seeds. And if I tap it, it sounds extremely hollow. So this one's totally ready to be picked. I'm not going to pick it quite yet though, because I want to do a video on harvesting loofahs. Quick update on my fall garden bed. I did beets and radishes here, so they popped up. I forget exactly what I had over here. I think I had like cauliflower or something back there, maybe broccoli too. There's 2 things that popped up here. Whatever's over here is not coming along, but these are looking good. Here's my second try at the red noodle beans. Maybe the red noodle beans just don't like the raised beds, is what I'm coming to the conclusion of, or there's something in this raised bed that it wants that's not there. These are our cabbages that we planted at the beginning of spring. They are bug riddled and probably no good. Noodle beans, again, not doing too hot in the raised bed. Note to self. Here's Tyler's fall garden bed. He's got some lettuce popping up. And then just look at these loofahs. All right, now I'm gonna dip down under these loofahs. All right, so now we're in the in-ground section of the garden. One thing that I will note is that I did grow noodle beans along this fence line, and they all did absolutely stellar. I mean, we picked from them like crazy. And then I had my idea where I was like, okay, the rest of them that are on there, we're gonna just let them dry out and we're gonna save them for seed. And then they just kept coming along. There's stuff out here I guess I could pick because we've got tons. See, we still got baby noodle beans coming along. Look at all of them. Unbelievable. It's hard to see, but there's peas planted here as well. We thought we were going to rip out the noodle beans, so we planted peas, and the peas took off and the noodle beans kept going, so they're living cohesively, I guess. So here's my peas. I don't see any actual peas on them yet, but they're healthy. Oh, got a flower. Those are the sugar snap peas, my absolute favorite pea in the world. So high hopes for these ones. Here's the rest of the bed. I honestly don't remember what all is here. I think that might be, I don't remember. Over here, I know that these were okra that we're trying. We do actually have some stuff going on here, but there's also bugs, which is a problem. Let's see, Tyler's flowers are still going pretty good. Got Tyler's peppers. Those we planted in the spring. We actually have a little pepper coming in over there. And then these, I believe, are radishes. And then over here is my original okra that I planted early in the spring. I have not gotten much okra off of it at all. So this one popped up. So I figured I would actually let this one go so that we could collect seed and try again next year. And then the rest of this mess is all of my celery. So yeah. Not a bad harvest for round 1. We still have plenty more to go. Here we have some sweet potatoes that my friend, a local friend, gave me at the beginning of the spring, and I didn't really have anywhere to plant them, so I decided to try and plant them in this like ginormous pot. So they are starting to die off. Obviously, like I said, we're expecting our first frost semi soon, so we're going to dig them up and see what we got.
Look, we grew carrots.
Doesn't he look handsome? I told him he needed to change.
It's date night.
Wait. Dig, baby, dig. There you go.
Nice. So I wasn't really sure what to expect with this, but these are nice sizes. Wow, look at that. That's really cool.
If they
for
weren't
growing
crammed in a pot, they probably would have been a little bit better.
But for not having any space to grow them, to be able to grow it in a small container.
I mean, look at them. They're all growing up into each other too, but they still came out like, I mean, that's a definitely edible size.
Yeah, for sure. This is awesome. Oh my goodness, I'm so surprised. I was not expecting this at all.
Just some roots.
All right, so we got the big ones. Yeah, these are all just roots. Oh, here's a good one.
There you go. Sweet potato noodles.
Look at that, y'all. Look at that. That is so cool. Well worth it. 100% well worth growing in a pot. If you really don't have extra space. So that's something that we like to highlight, that if you don't have space, that's not a reason to not grow your own food. You're totally capable of doing it. So this, like I said, was just a really big pot that we had. Actually, I think we got that for free somewhere. And we just threw some dirt in it. I just planted some of the little starts, what do they call them, slips in. And we got a pretty decent harvest of sweet potatoes. I'll call that a win. All right, so last but not least, we got to address the peppers that are out front here. Again, with the frost coming, I'm going to go ahead and just take everything I can. We're probably going to clear these out today. There we have it. It's quite a bit of peppers. Beautiful. Homegrown. All right, well, that's going to be a wrap for today. I'm actually going to end up doing a completely separate video on harvesting herbs because that's just a whole nother day project.
Yeah.
But
seasonings, teas.
so for today, that's what we got. So that's our harvest for October. Lots of stuff, tons of things to go through.
Tons of stuff still going.
Need
well,
some
maybe not tons,
pepper recipes. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching.
And we look forward to sharing more with you soon.